17 to 6. My name's Kat Davidson. You are officially on the home stretch. The sun is setting on 2022. But sometimes these last few weeks can be a bit of a struggle. You might be burnt out. You might be a bit distracted, thinking about that holiday you've got booked, which is just in arm's reach. So it's important not to bombard yourself with tasks in this final leg and break up those last few weeks in bite-sized and manageable chunks. So instead of tackling all of your things head on, maybe try segmenting your tasks and take life one step at a time. Dr. Rachel Hannam is the Director of North Brisbane Psychologists. Hello there, Rachel.
Hi, Kat. How are you?
Very well. Rachel, why is it that we tend to burn out at this time of year?
It's a good question, and my theory is that there's been an accumulation of stress and strain over the year, and gosh, this year particularly, the last couple of years. And just when we're hoping that things might start to slow down, as you say, at this time, sometimes things get more hectic and more stressful, and there's so many stressors. We're busy, we've got Christmas parties, Christmas shopping, lots of planning, sometimes financial stress, and conflict, family conflict around Christmas is also very common. So this is a very hard time of year for a lot of people.
So do you notice an uptick in burnout at this time of year, or does it take a little while for people to kind of realise that's what's happening?
Oh, yeah, I think a lot of people are in sort of chronic low-level burnout and don't realise it. And after the last couple of years with COVID and lockdowns and all the background noise, the anxiety that we've all been living with, and now with Christmas coming, I think a lot of people are in that chronic sort of burnt-out state and probably don't even realise it, although they may just notice that they're more irritable, they're feeling more exhausted, they're not getting a sense of joy, satisfaction or accomplishment out of the things that maybe they once did. They're feeling a bit more cynical, and they're all signs of burnout.
So how can we make these last few weeks a little more manageable?
Well, I like what you said, this idea of segmenting or compartmentalizing, which is a cognitive strategy, because one of the things I think we all know from our experience is that if you try and conceive of and think of everything all at once, you will feel overwhelmed. When I ask my clients about their overwhelm, I usually figure out that they are trying to think of everything and hold everything in their mind at the same time. And then they get so stressed and anxious, they almost get paralyzed. They can't do anything. And then they get irritable. They can't focus on what they're doing. They can't be mindful. And the antidote, as you said, is really to break everything down, focus on one thing at a time, maybe write some to-do lists. You know, I'm a fan of multiple to-do lists. I use the Reminders app on my iPhone to create different to-do lists depending on the context. So there might be Christmas shopping, there might be phone calls I need to make, there might be work-related to-do lists. And if I check my to-do list every day or two, and then I decide just to do what's realistic off that to-do list, and then focus on what I need to do and try not to think about anything else at all, because as soon as I start to think about all the things I'm not doing, my nervous system will pump out adrenaline, I'll be in the fight-flight response, and then I'll get stressed and overwhelmed, which adds to my burnout. So this idea of segmenting one step at a time, one task at a time is very useful.
Dr. Rachel Hannam is the Director of North Brisbane Psychologists. Is goal setting a good idea if we're dealing with burnout?
As long as our goals are realistic and we can break down the goal into the tasks, into the steps, so that we can, because, you know, you can't actually do a project. You can't actually do a goal. All you can do is a task. So if we can break down our projects or our goals, and Christmas is like a project in a way, and any project needs a pre-design phase where we kind of get clear on our expectations, clear on roles, clear on priorities. Sometimes that involves having conversations with people about who's doing what and who, you know, what do you expect, you know, right down to, are the adults buying presents for each other this Christmas or not? Who's doing what? And if we can set those expectations, then we can be clear on what tasks are ahead of us, then we can make our to-do lists. And I think as long as our goals are realistic, then, yeah, it helps us make a plan. But some people have fantasies and ideals about Christmas being perfect and everybody getting along and, perfect presents and perfect happiness, and they're not realistic goals or expectations for Christmas for most families. So I've actually been telling a few clients lately to just let themselves off the hook. And if it means they have to just practice self-care right now because they're so burnt out, and tell everybody, I'm burnt out, I don't think I can even do presents this year, but let's have a meal together. Let's keep it really simple. I've actually got a client who's just had that conversation with her family because she's so burnt out from COVID. She's a health professional. And she was very scared to do this with her family, but it actually went down much better than she expected. Got a bit of empathy, and now she can breathe a bit easier because she's taken some of the expectation and pressure off herself. So, yeah, we can do it. Yeah.
Is there an easy answer to which priorities we should be setting in the last few weeks, or does it depend a little bit about who you are and what your life is built like?
That's right. It's a case-by-case basis, as we like to say in psychology. It depends on who you are, what your life situation looks like. But I would say that for most people, the most important priorities at Christmas are to have a bit of downtime, connect with people that they love, and focus on relationships. We focus so much on presentation, whether it's presents or, making our home look beautiful or the perfect meal. And then we end up in relational conflict with one another, and that kind of ruins our Christmas and holiday season. So if we get our priorities around self-care and caring for, the relationships in our lives that are going to come up at Christmas time, that's usually a pretty good rule of thumb.
And I have to say, this isn't revealing too much. Well, it is revealing a lot. I've suffered from burnout, and it isn't pretty. It's painful. No. It's like
Me too.
It's awful. It's like being lost, and you feel all alone, and it's horrible. And it's really, for me anyway, I'm sure it's different for everyone, but I found it impossible to think. I just everything felt foggy and difficult and too much. So from that state, there wasn't a lot I could do other than breathe in, breathe out, and hope that it passed. Is there anything?
One foot in front of the other.
Yeah. The goals were get up out of bed. But what can you do if you feel you're headed in that direction? Given that there's not a great deal you can do once you're there. If you feel yourself headed to that place, what are the kinds of things that you would suggest generally? And this is information of a general nature. And if you're feeling any of these ways, please seek help. But what are some of the things that you could suggest to do if you think, I'm not doing great here?
Yeah, well, seeking help is a really good one from a good therapist or a coach if you can. And simplify. There's no mandate that says you have to be extravagant at Christmas time. Like my client, it's okay to say, I think I'm headed for psychological burnout and I don't want to go there. And this Christmas, I might just need to slow down, focus on the simple things. And you've got to, as you've just said, Kat, you've got to prioritize yourself if you're burnt out, if your nervous system is fried, if you can barely function in the daily activities of living, then, Christmas just feels overwhelming. And so it's okay to let people know where you're at. People won't know unless you let them know. So if you are feeling that way, let the people around you know where you're at. People will often have more empathy than you expect. And if you make requests of others, the research shows that when we make a clear and respectful request of people in our lives, most of the time they want to do it because most people actually do care and most people actually can understand. If you express yourself, if you tell them you're struggling, not as a criticism of them, not attacking them, but just saying, this is what's happening, I'm struggling, and this is what I need right now. Be brave, be honest. It's okay to let yourself off the hook. If that's what you have to do, do it.
And it's interesting, isn't it, when you said before that you're someone who has suffered from burnout, you're a medical professional, a psychologist, in fact. So I think sometimes it's helpful.
And I did my PhD on burnout.
Oh, wow.
And so when I went through the biggest burnout I've gone through in my life early last year, like, this is all the stuff I researched and read about, and now I really know what it feels like, the emotional exhaustion, the sense of not getting anything done and no accomplishment, the depersonalization and the cynicism. Like, it's really quite awful, and it's really quite human. And the body keeps the score. So your conscious mind can think, I'm doing fine, I'm okay, I'm all right, like I can do this. But your body and unconscious mind might be saying something totally different. And in the end, you have to listen to that because it will get you in the end. You've got to honour where you're at. Your emotional and physical state is really what it's all about. Your thoughts, your negativity, depression, anxiety, these are just symptoms, those kind of thoughts, of your physical and emotional state. You've got to look after that first and foremost. So, I definitely say self-care, mindfulness, get help, back to basics, and listen to your body and listen to your feelings.
Well, thank you for being so honest and candid with us, Dr. Rachel Hannam, and thank you for your advice tonight.
My pleasure. Thank you, Kat.
She's the director of North Brisbane Psychologists. So if you or someone you know is struggling, support is available. Please reach out. Beyond Blue on 1300 224 636. That's 1300 224 636. And Lifeline is on 131114. That's 13 11 14.